So I'm going to release just a couple of little sort of random videos for Pewtertown. Just a quick video now, just sort of going over some ways to sort of organize a big build. And then I'm going to pop something out at the same time as well that's just a sort of, honestly, just like a ramble for an hour of me building the item shop. But I figure they're kind of two separate different things. So maybe you'll like one or the other. And I'll talk about it at the end. But the next thing I'll do is a dock build back over on Sandy Highlands on Isle of Awakening. So I certainly don't have sort of any set rules or instructions. I struggle to call this a tutorial, but in moving Lavender Town over to the new Kanto map, I've just sort of written down a few notes about a couple of things that I've done that you can consider if you're doing any kind of big build, and a couple of things sort of specific to recreations, just to help you get some ideas on sizing and things. So I am going to do my island a bit differently to how I see a lot of people do it, which is to knock everything flat down, for a few reasons. I feel like because I'm building right out to those borders, it's actually going to be more annoying to sort of do it by knocking everything down to that ground level, because then I need to worry about getting rid of water. And I've got the outside ocean there, so that's going to constantly sort of be an issue. And if I build it all up like this, I also figure I can dig down into it, and hopefully have caves and a few things like that, and probably hide some of the less aesthetic buildings that might be required, like bathrooms, underneath the actual town, so that I can have villagers in there and they're not uncomfortable, but we don't have useless sort of rooms. So I'm using Laguna Parfuma for this reason. I don't want to have to knock down a lot of mountains, because I want one very big flat space that I will then divide. And this way I can knock down just the snowy parts, and I'm filling up the rest with chalk. So coloured chalk blocks are a great way to fill in huge spaces, because you're pretty much timesing the amount of blocks you have by a huge amount, 10 or more. But one chalk block I think does 30 actually coloured. So I'm filling it all in just with cyan, and I'm choosing generally different colours to mark out different types of plans. So I'm filling it all in with the blue, the cyan, but I'll be marking out the buildings individually and the town itself with different colours, so that I can easily differentiate. And now, just sort of, I guess, specifically for recreations, but it does help with a big build as well. But specifically with the recreation, it's always a good idea to create a test building, usually a small and or simple. It can be big if it's simple, or small. I say one or the other because you don't want to spend too much time on a building and then it doesn't fit. I try to do, for this Pokemon one, I've been trying to do the houses as the test building for each town, because that way I know it's one of the smallest buildings every time, and probably one of the most simple, and I can use that to work out the general size of everything else. And right now I'm going with the item shop is about 1.5 of a house, and the Pokemon centers are 2 to 3 of a house. The gyms are sort of 4 to 5 of a house. So using that scale, building a house, I can then plot out a big section, and I might have to go back and change that, but it's always good to just have a starting point and start marking out areas. And again, in terms of recreation, so if you're following a plan and a map, picking one of those smaller buildings and putting it in its correct position, and then trying to place things around it. Sometimes the hardest thing when you're starting to make a map is just, it's like doing a painting. It's like putting that first stroke down. You don't know what to do. You just need to put something down, which is why I say something small and simple like a house is going to help. And then separate to the planning, once you've got something like that, if it's built in at least the materials you want to use later, then you've also got a nice design board to bounce off for the rest of that area. But really, so once you've marked out areas with chalk, before or after that, you are going to probably want to have some kind of map, and it's going to be up to you on what kind of person you are and how you like to build as to if you want to do a really sort of specific map that you're going to have to follow strictly, or if you just want to, mark out a general area. So if you're doing a recreation and you need the entire space, or you're doing a big build and you need the entire space, that's when you're obviously going to need to be more precise with your map building. If you just have a general idea, you can do something a little bit more simple. So there are a million ways to draw a map. Just going onto your computer and using something like Paint and just using squares, or again, pen and paper, same thing. That's for your kind of basic stuff when you're just kind of getting an idea of a shape. I'll pop a link, but it's canva.com, canva.com, is what I use as the free version of it is great. And you can layer elements like squares and text over images really easy. So what I'm doing for Kanto is taking screenshots of the map, and I have marked out with shapes and text everything, knowing that I can move all the elements individually and resize them. The first map and the second map are already different, and I'm working on a third map. I know it's going to keep changing, but the great thing about using Canva is, including in the free version, which I'm using, you can just constantly edit and update and use all these elements really easily. And obviously being able to change transparency makes it handy like this to be able to see the map behind. So once we've used once we've sort of got a map area, a few things I would probably suggest is try and overestimate. You want to try and squeeze stuff in, but never try and overlap things too much. Be aware that you're almost always probably going to overshoot what you think. So if you try and pull out a little bit further from what you think it's going to be, you're going to end up with more room to move in the middle. Just quickly, in terms of Pewter itself, I ended up, when I went back to Isle of Awakening, I was going back towards one of the settlements and noticed how nice some of those curves look. So I'm actually going to use and blueprint over one of those curved stone dolomite structures and use that as the gym. Because I've decided to do that, I need to place that down before I do too much else because it's quite large, and make sure I have enough room for everything else. I'm not sure how much, I guess, people want to know about recreations. I could talk about it more. I've got the museum back there, but it's going to probably be just an empty facade because it's right on the edge of the map. So I'm happy to talk more about, I guess, my reasoning behind map building. I'm not great at it, but I have enjoyed it sort of a little bit on and off. If it's something you want to see more of, please do let me know. Like I said, at the same time, I'll just pop out an hour of building for the Pewtertown item shop, and I'll put some photos up now, but I'm doing, like I said, the dock over at Sandy Highland, so I'm going to do a 3-part, I think, there. That's the little Tudor houses in the wall, a simple dock build, and then I'm going to try and do some small boats and some kind of boat shed. So we'll try and do that over the next couple of days, and you'll see the first one of them hopefully tomorrow. I can get it uploaded. But as always, if there's anything specific you want to see, just let me know. I'd love to see any builds that anyone's done, sort of using any tutorials I've done. I've seen a few people send me stuff through and it's really cool. So if you've got any of that, please. But otherwise, I'll keep putting stuff out. I know it's been a bit of a longer gap than usual for me, but it's been a bit crazy. Hopefully I can get more stuff out more consistently this week. All right, bye.